guys. I hope you guys are all doing well. The next chapter of The Pursuit of God is titled The Universal Presence. Basically, in this chapter, Tozer wants to talk about God's omnipresence, um, or the fact that God is everywhere. But we have to be careful that we're not confused with pantheism, which suggests that everything in the world has a divine nature. Rock, for example, is a god. Water, for example, is God, and so forth. But Tozer argues that in its effort to make all things divine, pantheism banishes all divinity from the world entirely, because by making all things divine, God's uniqueness is lost. Because God has a divine nature, and that uniqueness is lost. Because of this, God is set apart from the world. Yet we say that He is nearer to the world that He has created, that He is here with us. What does it mean when God is close, when God is near? It means that wherever we may be, God is with us. No one can claim that he or she is closer to God than any other, or that any person can claim that he or she is far from God. The very reality is that every one of us is near to God. God is here with us. Perhaps we're in an illusion that we are far from God because we have hidden ourselves from God. Adam certainly tried to do so, and David also. But David confessed in his psalm, "Where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I go up to the heavens, you are there. If I make my bed in the depths, you're there." But if God is present here with us, and no one can say he or she is either near or further away from God, then why is it that his presence is not a universally celebrated fact? Tozer says that presence and manifestation are two different things, and yet they go hand in hand. Here's what I mean: God is present regardless of whether we are aware of it or not, and He is only manifested when we become aware of His presence. We become aware of His presence when we surrender to the Spirit of God, meaning when we cooperate with Him in loving obedience, we will become aware of His manifestations. But knowing our weaknesses, God is actually seeking to manifest Himself to us, not only to tell us that He is here, but also to let us know who He is. Tozer says that our pursuit of God is successful just because God is forever seeking to manifest Himself to us. Here we come back to the notion of being nearer to God or farther away from God. To say that we are nearer to God is not so much about distance. An imagery that Tozer uses is that of a relationship between a father and a son. When the father says that his son is getting nearer to him, is of course not talking about the distance between himself and his son, but that his son is becoming more like him. In the same manner, as our hearts and minds grow closer to God, we are drawn nearer to God, just as we sing in one of our praise songs. But we may also think, why does it seem like God is manifesting Himself to one individual over the other? It is true that God has no favoritism on one individual over the other. Instead, Tozer argues that the difference lies in us and not in God. What he means is that there are those who recognize their spiritual receptivity and go on to cultivate their spiritual awareness, understanding their spiritual urge within themselves. As they cultivate their spiritual awareness, they learn how to respond to it, perhaps more so than the average person. This is why it seems that God is manifesting Himself more to those than the others. Again, being because they are aware of spiritual urgency within them and they know how to respond to that urge within them. However, cultivating such spiritual awareness in our generation particularly, and because of the technology that we have, it's hard for us, it's difficult for us because we've got too used to getting things fast, done fast, which in turn has caused us to be impatient. When was the last time that you meditated on the scripture for more than 10 minutes? Hardly anyone can sit still for 10 minutes, let alone 5 minutes. But Tozer says that it can be done, that anyone can patiently wait and develop their spiritual awareness to know God's presence, to understand His presence. As I conclude, I hope that these words from Tozer can encourage you. Let any man or woman turn to God in earnest. Let him or her begin to exercise him or herself unto godliness. And let him or her seek to develop his or her powers of spiritual receptivity by trust and obedience and humility, and the results will exceed anything he or she may hope in his or her leaner and weaker days. So, I encourage you throughout this week to just sit still. Uh, be still before God as you meditate on the scripture and as you cultivate the spiritual receptivity in you. Until we see each other again, uh, be safe, and I'll see you next time.